Do you believe in magic? Scooby-Dooby-Doo-bop. Bop, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, believe in magic. I do apologise to anyone who was offended by my little sing-song there, but I'm currently eating apple pie and ice cream, and it always reminds me of the movie American Pie. The name's Nova, as in Casanova. If you've not seen American Pie, you won't get that reference, and also, sorry, but you're evicted from Megan True Crime. We can't be friends until you've watched it. Hey there guys, my name's Megan if you're new here, and if not, welcome back for another spooky episode of Killer Weekend, where each week we'll discuss a true crime case, and you guys can feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments box below. Shakira said hips don't lie. Well, neither do my shoulders. If you like all things true crime, supernatural, UFO, conspiracy theory, and all that good stuff in between, then please hit that subscribe button. I'll be here for you every weekend with our true crime killer weekends, and on and off every couple of Wednesdays with our Weirdo Wednesdays, where we'll discuss something spooky I've heard. If you would like to further support this wee channel o' mine, then please feel free to visit www.patreon.com/Megan True Crime. I will leave a small disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. It does involve details of a violent crime and also violent and threatening language of a sexual nature. If that's a trigger point for you, then please feel free to turn away now. Hey my wee gremlins, how's your week been? That bad? How's my week been? Thank you for asking, even though no one did. My week has actually not been too shabby. If you follow me here on YouTube, you will know that we hit 15,000 subscribers. Please don't unsubscribe for that. Along with this, I was also so blessed to be on my beautiful friend Cheryl Dale's podcast, Murder Between Friends. If you've not checked that out yet, the link will be in the description box below. Cheryl has been so amazing during my whole YouTuber journey. I'm fairly new to the YouTube scene. I'm a baby. I've only been here for about a year, and it just makes that big difference having people who support you, and women supporting women. We need more of that. I also want to say a big cheers, which means thanks here in the UK, to everyone who's been sending in their real life spooky stories. Guys, I'm so overwhelmed with the great positive feedback that we got from the Reddit spooky story episode. So if you would like, keep them coming. I will choose 2 scary stories, maybe 3 if we've got time, and this will be coming in an episode in a couple of days. So please get your real life true crime spooky stories into me now. If you want to send them over, it's megankillerweekend@gmail.com, and I will pop that, if I can actually speak, I will pop that in the description box below, you know what I'm saying. But my friends, it's time to put on our snorkels and dive into this week's case. Way back when, in 2005, when little Megan wasn't stealing vodka from her parents' kitchen and replacing it with water, classic, she was talking with her friends in chat rooms, more specifically teenage chat rooms, which is ironic because the average user was about 45 years old. The term catfish wouldn't exist for another 5 years or so, and yeah, we were dumb. So when someone told you they were an 18-year-old sexy tanned boy from California with an 8-pack, you believed them. And let's be honest, okay? We're not always the most honest people online. I'm sure you know some of those guys out there in their Tinder bios. It says 6 foot, but he looks 5'9". And we think to ourselves, what is the harm in a couple of little white lies over a computer screen? Well, in 2006, 3 people involved in an interweb menage a trois would soon learn how easily an online fantasy can escalate to cold-blooded murder. Tonight, everyone, we will be discussing the much anticipated and requested case of TalHotBlond. Our story begins in a dark and desolate parking lot at 10 p.m. on the 15th of September 2006. Our victim makes their way towards their car. But what they didn't notice was that somewhere lingering in the shadows was an enraged killer. As they fumble for their keys and step into their car, simultaneously someone creeps out of the darkness carrying a .30 caliber rifle. Bang, bang, bang! 3 shots are fired through the driver's side window. And just like that, a life is over and a murderer slips away into the night. In May 2005, 2 strangers logged onto online gaming site Pogo, and whilst in a teen chat room, they struck up a conversation. One had the username of TalHotBlond and the other Marine Sniper. The more the two chatted, the more they opened up about their lives behind the screen. Marine Sniper, aka 18-year-old Tommy Montgomery, was a trainee sniper who was preparing to be deployed to Iraq. He described himself as a young red-headed Harrison Ford, and he was currently living alone with his father in Buffalo, New York. Then you had TalHotBlond, who was an 18-year-old called Jesse Scheiler from a small town of Oak Hill in West Virginia. Jessie, short for Jessica, was, as her screen name suggested, a beautiful, leggy, tall blonde who was very athletic. She spoke to Tommy about her dreams for the future and her passion for playing softball for her high school team. But alongside their emotional connection, the two teens were looking for a physical one, and for that they would often send photos back and forth. Jessie sent over some saucy pics, some of her in a bikini, some of her striking some sexy poses. There's one that actually springs to mind, and I'll put it on the screen for you now. She's rocking the old Kate Winslet and Titanic vibes, you know, got one arm behind the head, yeah. Paint me like one of your French girls, Jack. That kind of idea. And as a thank you, 18-year-old Tommy returned the favour by sending her a photo of him in his military uniform. A beautiful portrait. But what young, beautiful, naive 18-year-old Jessie didn't know was that that photo was actually taken 30 years before. Yes, ladies and gentlebags, her sexy Marine was actually a balding 46-year-old father of 2 and husband with a gut. According to their chat transcripts, he'd accidentally stumbled into a teen chat room, and when an attractive and magnetic Jessie entered the chat, he just couldn't resist. The real Tommy, Thomas Montgomery, was no Marine Sniper, and he was not Harrison Ford. If any of you have ever watched Datelines to Catch a Predator, As a young man in Clarence, New York, Thomas had aspirations of joining the military, which he actually did, and even qualified as a sharpshooter. But when the time came to put his training into action, Thomas Montgomery was not cut out for that life, and due to a drinking problem, he actually left the military after 6 years. At the age of 46, Thomas had the quintessential all-American life. He had a loving wife named Cindy, who was a nurse, 2 young daughters, a dog named Shadow, and a beautiful home in Buffalo, New York. Thomas was a Sunday school teacher. He was also working as a machinist for Dynabraid, who manufacture power tools and industrial vacuums. But while that kind of lifestyle would be enough for me and you, it would never be enough for Thomas. His career progression was essentially at a standstill, and without taking a large pay cut, he was unable to train for a new position. He felt unsatisfied with not only his work life, but also his married life as well. He and Cindy had begun to drift apart, and after so many years of marriage, 46-year-old Thomas began to experience issues with his manhood. He was having problems with his peep. Due to Thomas's impotence, intimacy between he and his wife became practically non-existent. Upset and lonely, Thomas then turned to the internet for solace, playing online card games and chatting to strangers. So, whilst his wife slaves away working 12-hour shifts on the hospital floor, he's chatting up teenage girls online, and pretty soon the chat turns X-rated. It gets dirty, Christina Aguilera style. Tommy and Jesse soon engage in cyber sex, with the 18-year-old girl from West Virginia none the wiser that the guy that she's sharing this intimate moment with is literally a middle-aged dude. Jessie confides in Tommy that she's never been physically intimate with another man before, and that she cannot wait for them to meet in person so that they can share their young lives together, totally unaware that that era of Tommy's life has long been over. Meanwhile, back at home in Buffalo, New York, Thomas is growing more and more distant from his wife and kids. He's getting snappy with Cindy. He doesn't want to share the computer with his kids at night, and therefore he's more interested in his online cyber life than in his real life at home. At one point, he tells his teenage lover that he is now being deployed to Iraq. And this just goes to show how fully immersed he was becoming in this imaginary life he'd created, even creating a whole new persona, Tommy's dad. Thomas speaks to Jessie as Tommy's father so he can still maintain that same level of chat with her whilst Tommy is serving in fake Iraq. The naive, pretty young blonde even sends care packages to Tommy's dad, hoping that they will reach her lover fighting bravely overseas, when in the real world, not the cringy television show, it was creepy Thomas who was receiving these parcels and hiding them from his wife and 2 kids. Included in these gifts was often provocative, sexy photos and a worn red thong. Yum. Thomas struggled with the juggling act of maintaining all these different personalities and relationships. But in the December of 2005, sexy Marine Tommy had a question for his tall, hot blonde. A romantic proposal over Christmas time where he asked her to be his wife. When Jessie gladly accepted, the 2 swapped more sentimental gifts, Jessie sending more used underwear. Did they not sell watches in West Virginia? No. And to say thank you for her acceptance, Tommy sent Jessie a lovely Christmas gesture, a bouquet of poinsettias. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you do not know what a poinsettia is, just imagine, okay, take your mind to any 50-year-old woman's home at Christmas. I'm sorry, I do feel deeply apologetic for Jessie at this point, but if that wasn't a red flag that you were talking to a middle-aged man, then I don't know what is. But it wasn't all roses or poinsettias in this relationship. No, Tommy had a vicious jealous streak, and when he became suspicious that his Jessie was talking to other guys online, he flew in to rage, even calling her, trigger warning, a big whore. However, this wasn't the first time that Tommy had showed his aggressive side. When he initially began speaking with Jessie, he told her he hadn't had the best start in life. He said that his mother had passed away when he was 12, which was a lie. He said that because of his mother's untimely death, he'd fallen into a deep depression. But that wasn't the most concerning thing he told Jessie. Even more worrying was his character's alleged rap sheet. He said that he had joined the military to straighten himself out after he had sexually assaulted a cheerleader from his hometown. Now, it's important to bear in mind that this little confession was actually in one of their first conversations. Now, I know teenagers are stupid, God knows I was, but she's just there like, oh, sexual assault, yep, that's my man. No matter what Tommy told Jessie, she was always there, right behind him, his biggest fan, his biggest supporter, even sending him a video montage to the song by Aerosmith, I Don't Wanna Miss a Thing. While she sat at home in Oak Hill, West Virginia, she dreamt of becoming Mrs. Jessica Blair Montgomery. Meanwhile, Thomas was dreaming of an alternate reality where he could be the man that Jessie truly wanted. After proposing to his teen lover over the Christmas holidays, Thomas wrote a letter to himself that was later found in his employee locker. On January 2nd, 2006, Tom Montgomery, 46 years old, ceases to exist and is replaced by an 18-year-old battle-scarred Marine. All paperwork is set, i.e. birth certificates, social security card. He is a strong, good-looking, battle-hardened boy. Sorry. I feel like I'm reading a soft porn novel. This is actually a really serious case, guys. I'm not laughing at the case itself. I'm laughing at how disturbing this person's mind is. He has money in the bank, 2.5 mil, and he has a 9-inch penis. He is moving to West Virginia to be with the love of his life. Thomas even started telling his close friends and work colleagues that he was no longer in love with his wife, he'd fallen in love with someone online, and he was planning to leave his marriage. Something that none of them really believed. But as beautiful as this make-believe life was, it would soon be torn to shreds. One afternoon, whilst Thomas was at work, his young daughter had popped on the computer to do some schoolwork, and up came an IM from Jessie. Well, the cat was out of the bag. His younger daughter told his wife exactly what she had seen, and after scrolling through thousands of X-rated messages, Cindy was on the hunt for more information. After turning their home upside down, Cindy soon found Jessie's care packages, and she was horrified. Not only was this young teenage girl totally unaware of Thomas Montgomery's real identity, but she was actually closer to their daughter's age than she was to Thomas's. Disgusted by her husband's blatant deception, Cindy relegated Thomas to the family's basement where he would sleep until she figured out what she was gonna do. Thomas's wife, being the kind and giving woman that she was, couldn't help but feel sorry for 18-year-old Jessie. Here was this young teenage girl building a life with this person, and it turned out that he was faker than Pamela Anderson's boobs and Bella Hadid's nose. Too soon? Okay, too soon. She decided she couldn't leave Jessie hanging, not really knowing the true identity of Thomas. So she writes a letter, and enclosed she puts a family photo of the real Thomas Montgomery. She explains that Thomas is not who he says he is, and that Jessie has to be more careful with her online security. She's extremely kind and understanding, and really just gives this young girl advice that she needs to be more careful with her safety. Thomas, having been outed by his wife, vows to change his ways and cut all contact off with TalHotBlond, which he does for 2 weeks. At this point, a heartbroken Jessie is still reeling from Cindy's letter. Was this all a complete lie? Was this just a made up fantasy? Was Cindy a real person? She needed to get closer to the truth. And there was only one person she could think of to ask. A couple of times, she and Tommy had played online poker with a friend of his, a 22-year-old man under the username of Beefcake. Seriously, that was the name. 22-year-old Beefcake, also known as Brian Barrett, was a part-time machinist who worked alongside the real Thomas at Dynabread. He was studying at the time at Buffalo State College, and he had recently saved up enough money to buy himself his own truck, something that he was extremely proud of himself for doing, and his parents were extremely proud of him. He was their pride and joy. A handsome, tanned and bulky dude, he had been on these gaming sites but had no clue that his work colleague had been harassing teenage girls on the sidelines. Shocked and appalled by Thomas's behaviour, Brian tries to comfort Jessie to no avail. However, they do bond over the opinion that Thomas Montgomery is a predator who was preying on girls almost 30 years his junior. After talking back and forth for a few days, 18-year-old Jessie starts to realise that she and 22-year-old Brian have a lot more in common, and maybe, everything happens for a reason and all was not lost. Brian, like Thomas was previously, begins receiving, some sexy X-rated photos of Jessie, and he begins to fall for her. With these new emotions comes anger. Anger that someone like Thomas could try and take advantage of his sweet and loving Jessie. And because of that, Brian goes into work and begins telling other employees that this man is a creepy pervert. The guys in work are shocked. They always saw Thomas as this nice, kind of quiet guy. I mean, yeah, he was a bit of a fantasist. Sometimes he would talk about his time in the Marines as if he had seen some shit, when really he had never seen one day in combat. But they just chalked that up to him being a bit of a bullshitting Billy. They could never have foreseen that this was a red flag, a warning of things to come. Slowly, the invites to boys' poker nights and family barbecues dried up because no one wanted a creeper like him around their teenage daughters. Brian would also taunt Thomas with how close he was getting to Jessie, even printing out his instant message conversations with her and sticking them to Thomas's workstation. But Brian Beefcake wasn't the only one who wanted Thomas to suffer. No, Jessie, feeling betrayed still by Thomas's lies, began flaunting her new relationship in front of Thomas's face, or screen. She would send messages saying that she was so deeply hurt and betrayed, but not to worry because Brian was helping her through it. Jessie /TalHotBlond and her new beau would often join other chat rooms that Thomas was on and warn the other users that he was a predator, often getting him kicked out of several gaming sites. As Brian got closer and closer to Jessie, Thomas's hatred for him intensified, with Thomas even telling work friends how he had planned out the perfect murder and the perfect murder weapon he would use, which was a .30 caliber rifle. Meanwhile, Jessie, back in West Virginia, felt conflicted. She was just finishing up high school at a crossroads in her life, and she'd become unsure of her relationship with Brian. She felt like his interest in her was purely sexual, and as an 18-year-old good girl, that's not what she was looking for. So she decided to end that relationship, but not before she started sliding in Thomas's DMs, or IMs for us old people, and she stated that she missed Tommy, the fictional character that she'd shared so many secrets with. Initially, she suggests that the two should just be close friends, which, after a lot of poor me attitude, Thomas Montgomery accepts. But Jessie can't just leave it there. No, she starts saying how much she misses her Marine Sniper, Tommy. She says she aches for him, and pretty soon the conversation turns sexual. After this session of internet intimacy, not really sure what to call it, Jessie is shocked when Thomas says to her that if she lies to him again, she will lose something very close to her. At this point, Jessie is playing a very dangerous game as she's pitting these two men against each other, and the both of them are becoming more and more possessive, but not over Jessie, over her virginity. 22-year-old Brian was going into work bragging to his other workmates that he was going to be Jessie's first. And then Thomas was then infuriated because he was realising that that man was never gonna be him. Side note though, I've never really understood this obsession with, being someone's first. Like, why? Why would you want that? It's awkward. No one really wants to be there, let's be honest. And I've never heard any of my friends say that, their first time was fabulous, would do it again. But for some reason, these two men were fighting over Jessie like two rabid dogs playing with a juicy steak. Thomas would threaten to eliminate Brian when he heard that he and Jessie are planning to meet in person. You see, Brian had agreed to help a family member move some furniture in a town not too far from Jessie, and on the way back he thought, what a great opportunity, I'll pop in and I can meet the elusive tall hot blonde finally face to face. But Thomas would not go down without a fight, even leading him to send Jessie the most despicable IMs until it was time for her to sign off for good. On the 13th of September 2006, Jessie sent to Thomas Montgomery the message, "Baby, I'm leaving," to which he responded, "And I bet you don't leave Yahoo or Pogo, just another lie from the lying whore." Charming. He says, "You never loved, whore, you just hurt." After a couple of messages going back and forth with basically him just calling her a lady of the night, she finally says, "I'm leaving now," to which he responds, "It's not funny, sure you are." Oh, Thomas. Now, it's important to state at this point, Jessie never writes a message to Thomas again, but he doesn't take that too well. So the next few messages are literally just him bombarding her with abuse. And I'm not laughing because it's okay. I'm laughing because he is so ridiculous. I would try and do a Buffalo, New York accent, but I'm not going to embarrass myself on this. So he then says, "You got what you always wanted. Brian alone with his man area, whore." After she doesn't respond to this, he then replies again, "Run to Brian, you cock whore. He's waiting for you." 4 hours later, he says, "Yep, liar. I knew you and Brian would be together on here. You just wanted to get rid of me, so you got it. And you keep on lying, but you would never delete Pogo or Yahoo. So your track record is still intact. You have lied every time we talked. Nice record." Oh, he's so emotionally unstable. "Hey liar, still here? I see." Now he then starts messaging Brian and says, "Your girlfriend is just like you. Nothing but lies. Keep her with you. She is nothing but your West Virginia whore. So keep her the F away from me. You wanted her, you got her." And with that final message, neither Brian, Thomas or Jessie would ever speak again, and within 48 hours, one of them would be found dead. On the early Monday morning, the remains of Brian Barrett's scream name Beefcake were found in his prized possession, his beloved truck that he had spent months saving up for. Because Brian was due to visit his uncle to help him move furniture that weekend and also stop by Jesse's on the way home, he wasn't found until after the weekend. A financial motive was quickly ruled out by investigators because there had been no attempts to steal anything from the vehicle. It was clear from the get-go that this was a planned attack. You see, Brian's tyres had all been slashed, which meant even if he had noticed someone waiting to attack him, he wouldn't have been able to drive out of the car park. Investigators scoured the area looking for physical clues, and that's when they came across two crucial pieces of evidence. One was a peach pit laying close to the car, which had saliva on it, and then you had a cartridge case made of leather which appeared to have some form of animal hair on it. Who could have wanted to hurt this young and driven young man, someone who was working hard not only at Dynabraids but also in school to ensure himself a great future? His parents were absolutely baffled. However, his colleagues at work had an idea, as only 2 weeks before this incident, someone named Thomas Montgomery had been showing a great deal of interest of when Brian got off work on this particular shift. Investigators learned of the online love triangle and soon feared that after killing his love rival, Thomas Montgomery may well be on the way to Jesse's home. Just to be safe, a local uniformed officer made his way to Jesse's home in West Virginia. No one knew exactly where Thomas Montgomery was. He wasn't at work, he wasn't at home, and no one could get a hold of him on his cell phone. Was it possible he was on his way to West Virginia to end this once and for all? Uniformed officers arrived at Jesse Scheiler's home, and it was a kind of beaten up white house. It had seen better days, and when they rang the doorbell, it wasn't Jessie who answered. It was her mother, Mary, and Mary had said that she wasn't able to get hold of her daughter. I mean, that's not strange. Maybe she's out partying. But what was strange is that only an hour before, someone had spoken to officers claiming to be Jessie and said that they were home and would remain home until the police arrived. Her mother was now acting really bizarre and said there was no physical way for her to contact her daughter's cell phone. And this is when she came out with a shocking confession. Well, children, I've not been very honest with you. You see, I've been hiding a big piece of information. You see, Mary Scheiler, the woman who answered the door, Jesse's mother, is in fact herself TalHotBlond. But this stocky 45-year-old brunette was neither tall, hot, nor blonde. So who exactly was this femme fatale that had tricked two men, not only who were willing to die for her, but kill for her? Mary was known around town as an amazing wife and mother. She was always that mum on the sidelines at her daughter's softball games, cheering the loudest. But behind her perfect facade, she was tricking dozens of men online. She'd been using her very real own daughter's photos to fool men into online conversations. She posted their home address. She sent used underwear found from her daughter's dirty washing hamper. She sent provocative bikini photos from family vacations, all to creepy men on the internet. Men like 46-year-old Thomas Montgomery. Even worse than this, remember all those, Lady Garden photos that Tommy and Brian received, well, she'd in fact purchased a camera, and when her daughter was getting out of the shower or getting out of the car, she would take upskirt photos of her own daughter's vagina. Who had Brian and Thomas really fallen in love with? Mary Scheiler, the real TalHotBlond, claimed that she was a happily married woman and even lied to her daughter and her husband at the time, saying that no, she was never romantically involved with these men and she always interacted as herself. Her family only realised the true nature of this story when her daughter Jessie, the real Jessica, Googled the case and saw her photos everywhere online. So we finally had a real answer as to who this person was who lured these men into a deadly altercation, but what we didn't know was where the killer was. Thomas Montgomery was still missing. Neighbours said that he had gone away on a camping trip with his family the day after the murder, conveniently. And in some weird bid to solidify an alibi, he claimed that he'd been out for dinner and didn't arrive back home until 10 p.m. on the night of the murder. His family refused to lie for him, and when he was finally interviewed by police, he let it slip that he had an obsession with peaches. You see, during his interview with law enforcement, Thomas said that he had to get out to his car real quick because his packed lunch was in there and he had peaches in it, which would spoil. Remember the peach pit that was found at the murder scene. Investigators also did wonder if there was some sort of weird symbolism at this being left, because only a few weeks prior to the murder, Jessie had changed her screen name to Peaches_06_17. If it's not got an underscore, it didn't happen. The DNA on the peach pit, surprise, surprise, Cilla Black, it matched Thomas Montgomery. Not only that, the hair on the leather pouch was determined to belong to the family dog Shadow that lived at the Montgomery residence. But being the monster that he is, Montgomery would not give up that easy. No, Thomas, on the phone to his young teenage daughter, tried to manipulate her into giving him a false alibi, stating that if she didn't, he would be going away forever. His daughter is literally sobbing, like breaking her heart, and he's trying to trick her into lying for him. It's just one of the worst things I've ever heard, and I feel so sorry for his family. When all else fails, Thomas claims that many other people could have been the killer. Brian was very unlikable and often had people threatening him in his workplace. But this was false, and many people said that Brian was a big teddy bear and just liked and loved by all that knew him. One thing investigators couldn't locate physically was the murder weapon. He had told people in his workplace that if he was ever going to commit a murder, one, he would use a .30 caliber rifle, which was the weapon used, and two, he was never dumb enough to leave a shell casing around. Thomas had a gun cabinet in his living room which had all of his guns displayed, but one was missing from its snug little spot. When investigators did some deep diving into the Montgomery family photos, they found a photograph within that space, none other than a .30 caliber rifle, which sadly has never been found. On November 27, 2006, Thomas Montgomery was arrested and charged with the murder of Brian Barrett. The following spring, his wife filed for divorce and his two children wrote him a letter stating that they wanted to cease all contact with him. For that reason, Thomas tried to kill himself in prison, but he was unsuccessful. Thomas would then strike a deal with the DEA, confessing to first-degree manslaughter, and several times he tried to withdraw his guilty plea, which he didn't understand. You can't do that, you can't be like, yeah, killed someone. Oh, no, I didn't. Jokes. Because of this, he was then sentenced to 20 years in prison, and he will be eligible for parole in 2024. So not too far away at all. Hide your webcams, ladies. He's on the prowl. This was such a tragic case, and the only person who was really honest about who they were was the one who paid the ultimate price. Despite her clear involvement in this case, Mary never received any criminal charges. Her family still to this day refused to speak to her, and even after appearing at court for this crime, she actually stated that she thought her daughter Jessie should just get over it. Another real victim of this case was the real Jessica Scheiler. People yell at her in the street, people send her the most disgusting messages on Facebook, and I think deep down her mother never actually thought about how much this could impact her child's life. The case itself got massive media attention in 2009 from the documentary, and then in 2012 from the Lifetime movie, which, fun fact, is directed by Courtney Cox. Probably why it's not the best. But because of this, Jessie felt like everywhere she turned, someone knew her name, someone knew her business, and someone was looking at her in a picture of her bikini. So many lives were ruined by these two completely fictional characters who were never going to be able to meet. So why did Brian have to die? Thomas Montgomery may not have been stupid enough to leave shell casings, but he was stupid enough to leave DNA. And that, my friends, was far more valuable. I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, please give a big thumbs up for me. It really helps my channel. If you're looking for more true crime, creepy stories, whatever you like, then please hit that subscribe button. I'll be here for you every weekend. If you're slightly interested as to what this freak show does on a daily basis in her normal life, then please visit my Instagram page, Megan True Crime. I also have Twitter, not sure anyone's using Twitter in 2022, but it's at Megan True Crime. So remember everyone, lock your doors, don't talk to strangers, and also just don't accidentally log on children's chat rooms, okay? Tom's looking at you. It's just not good for no one. See ya! Ooh, big kisses.